Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Season 2, Episode 7 of Mayor of Kingstown. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, we have Mike talking to Bunny yet again, especially after Bunny killed the DA last episode, which is like, cool, I get why you did that, but also you're making my job harder. It's like, I was making progress. It's like, yeah, you said that before, but I've cleared the way for you, Mike. Mike was even going as far as saying, you made it even harder now. And I guess it's one or two ways to think about it. One, by killing the DA, you're making everyone else afraid, like, okay, we'll do whatever you want us to, so they're more likely to comply with what Mike wants. But I think Mike's saying, like, yeah, no one's going to really want to sign off on it because his mentality of like, oh, not giving in to criminals, someone might double down on it. Yes, it all falls on to Evelyn, but I think Mike was worried that Evelyn would fall the other way. She was not super reluctant, but she wasn't as quick to try and pull the trigger on this whole like getting the criminals out of jail because she had so much other stuff. And now she's terrified, even to the point when Mike shows up at the office, like everyone else is going, she had like everyone go home because, you know, she's terrified and everyone's terrified because like, cool. If he can get got, what does that mean for the rest of us? And obviously she's just kind of like, screw this, Mike. You believe this whole thing, this whole BS about there being peace. There is no peace. There never will be peace. But Mike is like, yeah, we won't have any peace until you sign the paper. Your predecessor did the stupidest thing. He didn't honor his deal. He forgot who he got in bed with. And what did he do? He ran around, puffed out his chest, acted tough, put a target on his back. You don't have to do that, Evelyn. You can just do the right thing. Do us all a favor and do this. Sign the papers so that we can get this all done. That's how we get peace restored. Mike, because she doesn't see the world the way Mike does. Mike has a very unique position in all of this, considering he's the middleman in this, but just naturally he has a very eye open in every avenue on both sides of things, but it's hard to say by the end whether or not Evelyn actually did sign off on it. Because Bunny, and I think that guy's Bunny's cousin, right? Or yeah, I think so. Home dude that's kind of like Bunny's second command, who Bunny's trying to like get him to be the one to run things inside the prison. They ended up getting taken to a new room by Carney, because I love Bunny and Home Dude were like, yo, what's going on? Why is our room cleared out? It's like, oh, like Mike hooked us up with a better room. It's like, oh, okay. And I love that him and Home Dude had that back and forth. Like, oh yeah, it's like The Godfather. It's like, no, that was Goodfellas. It's like, no, it wasn't. Was it The Godfather and Goodfellas? They kind of had that back and forth, and I love that Carney had the last laugh and then closed the door, but being like, it was like Goodfellas or Godfather, and then closes the door. It's like I love that little stupid back and forth that they had. I also love that Mike had to ask. He's like, hey, I just need to know, are you with AB? And he's like, no, Mike, you know me. I'm an equal opportunist when it comes to like hating everyone, black, white, doesn't matter. Everyone in there is scum to me. So it's like, I'm an equal opportunist when it comes to my hate, you know? So I love that. So I was like, no. I just had to make sure. So, because AB's at least trying to seem like, oh, everything's copacetic, but they're kind of they've skewed things in their favor when it comes to the prison because they got drones dropping drugs off. So it kind of skews things their way. We still haven't really found out what happens with like the Mexican gangs, like now that its leaders, I guess they were supposed to set up their second in command, so I guess the second in command's already set up and the leader's gone, so the new guy's kind of taken over, I guess. Maybe. Because that was the whole point of all the leaders being there, was to set up their second in command, so I don't know. You haven't really just touched on the aftermath on the Mexican gang side of things, at least I don't think, when it comes to like now that their leader's dead. But I do love that later on at the end of the episode, Mike ends up finding a guy who's operating the drones and dropping off drugs to the AB. And it's like, yo, what are you doing? And the leader of the AB calls the guy, and Mike picks up the phone. It's like, yo, you are going to have to find your way through. Like, there's no getting ahead of anybody. And the guy was like, yo, like, this is the promise from me. He's like, no, it's supposed to be even Stevens all across the board. It's like, even though Mike does have a little favoritism when it comes to Bunny, but that's beside the point. It's like, no, this is supposed to be even. Like, the point, that was why I got AB, like, to back down when I did last episode, because it's like, right, this is supposed to be an even fair ground for, like, that's how we keep the pieces when everyone's able to get theirs, no one getting a little bit more than anyone else. So it's like evening the playing field. So let's see how long that lasts. Like, Mike is doing everything he can to keep this whole ship afloat, but no one's making it easier for him, even Bunny, which I even love. He had to break up a thing between the whites and like the Crips, and he's like, whoa, what are you doing? You know, everybody, he's like, there's peace now, everybody's supposed to be working on their territory. It's like, yeah, you come here to deal drugs in a sea of blue. It's like, yeah, like, why would you even do that? Like, are you idiotic and didn't realize whose turf you're on? Or were you still under the impression like AB was kind of swinging things, like things hadn't fallen back in order with the Crips or not? I don't know. I guess testing the limits, or maybe they just were idiots. But it's like, oh yeah, like Rhonda said, like the stop by, and Mike's like, okay, it's like, yo, be careful where you, basically dude was like, yo, be careful where you stick your penis in, bro. Especially because it's like, yeah, that's Bunny's cousin, so it's like, yeah, that's going to be a whole, especially where you and Bunny are on the best of terms right now. You're in a very complicated situation. I don't think she looks at Mike that way. I mean, she's very like, they have a very like mutual, borderline antagonistic relationship for what we've gotten so far, but who knows if that's going to like fully change or not. So Mike's got that. His mom's calling him up about the Jacob thing. He's like, yeah, Mom, I'm busy. I haven't really had an opportunity to swing by. I'm like, is that going to turn into something significant? And the fact is that, you know, that's seems to be something that's supposed to be taking Mike's attention. But I'm like, part of me wonders, is that going to be something like, I almost wonder, could that be a trap to draw Mike in? Could that be like that kid Jacob's like, oh no, like I need to talk to Mike to help me out. It's like, but could it be like he's only luring Mike there because it's a trap? Like, you know, like maybe the kid's got connections to Milo. I'm probably reading too much into it, but it's just, it feels like so weird that storyline kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, the same thing with Ian and that Charlie dude. I'm like, what is his storyline that was like introduced last episode? Like he's I think a serial killer or whatever who tells them where the bodies get dropped, where he's left bodies. And Ian's kind of got a good relationship with him. And it's like, he's like, yeah, well, Ian, if you ever need anything, he's like, all right, you know, they let you out of here with dentist stuff. So he's like, yeah, if you like, you know, mess up your teeth or something, then I can take you out. You can get outside for a little bit and stuff like that. I'm like, what is it? Once again, it's just like that subplot was brought up, and I'm like, what is that supposed to be about? That's like, it wasn't until this episode it made me think about the Jacob stuff. Maybe, possibly, probably, most likely not. But it just, I'm like, Milo's been too quiet, you know, especially because we know Kyle got the bonds and ended up giving them to Mike, so we know Mike has them. So that's why I almost feel like, does Milo know that Mike has him? Did he find that Kyle's the one that took them, or what? Now it's like, it feels weird, that whole Jacob storyline of like, oh yeah, he knows who you are and he wants you to help him. I'm like, I mean, it would make sense kind of using Miriam to get to Mike, because Mike would do it just because his mom asked him to do it. You know, it's like any other way, it'd be harder for just some kid in juvie, or potentially could end up doing hard time if he screws, like if he messes up one more time in like the next year, then it'd probably be hard for someone like that to get in touch with the mayor. But I don't know. Like I said, back in my mind, I'm like, is there going to be a Milo connection here? Like, why is that storyline seeming like it's such an, it's hard to say, like, if there's so many, I guess, because it's hard to say what the Milo storyline is. Is that feels like that's the B plot? Then I'd assume the Ian and Charlie thing is a C plot, maybe. Then also Mike's helping out with the Robert situation, because Robert found out which member of his team ended up ratting on him, which I think Kyle and Evan were like, whoa, what, that guy at least killed 20 people when he busted up into prison, so he probably killed just as many as anyone else. And I mean, we still don't know, is it a conscience thing, or was there kind of pressure on him to kind of rat out Robert? Because they were, Kyle was talking to his captain earlier, and his captain was like, yeah, you and Ian need to get your story straight. It's like, right, Robert saved our lives, like we can't, but it's like, yeah, someone needs to take the fall for this, because it's the whole thing of, if people aren't held accountable, how can we be the good guys anymore? because it's like, right, people need to be able to know like good guys and bad guys, and if a cop does something bad, then they're a bad guy, and they get reprimanded, they get punishment, because it's that conversation of like I mean, obviously bleeding into the real world stuff of like a lot of times it's like, cops don't get the punishments they deserve. It's like you get paid leave and you don't get charged. That's where, but they're trying to make an example of using Robert as the fall guy in this situation, which Ian and Kyle aren't down for that. So Mike is saying like, let me talk to that guy. We'll see how that kind of plays out. Because apparently he's already talked to the DA, so IA isn't going to talk to him. They already talked to Robert. I think, already talked to Ian, maybe. No, I think they still need to talk to Ian and Kyle, which Kyle's not handling all of this well. I mean, this is just one more thing stacked on top of so much other stuff, because he went home after the bar, saw Tracy, and she had made a meal. He was like, "Oh, hey, you want a beer?" He's like, "Oh, of course you can't have a beer. You're pregnant, huh?" And he's like, "Right, I see you judging me." She's like, "Babe, I haven't said anything. I'm not judging you. That's coming from somewhere else." And it's like, and he's like, "Oh, okay." And it's like, I think I interpreted what she was saying like, the fact is, it's not me you're feeling that negative emotions from. You're projecting onto me, but that's coming from you. You have a lot of some stuff, some demons you have to deal with, and you're kind of projecting on me like I'm the one kind of, it's like you're judging yourself because you don't like who you are right now. So he still got a lot to figure out. I mean, luckily, he ended up stumbling across Iris, which he left a message for Mike, but now you're like, man, Mike's going to get that too late, because Kyle's probably going to jump on that Iris thing when he shouldn't, because obviously I don't know if he knows that, but that's Joseph's club, and even if it wasn't Joseph's, well, I mean, even if you don't have to worry about Joseph, which you do, it's also Milo you have to worry about, which that whole situation could turn nasty, especially if Milo or Joseph get a hold of him and find, or at least Milo knows he's the one that took the bonds, or at the very least knows that Mike has them and wants to use Kyle as leverage to get them back. I don't know. It's interesting too, because we got that Iris part of the episode where she's talking to the other girl, the black girl that like has beef with her. It's like, what's your problem with me? Because it's like, you come here being like Milo's New York girl, and she's like, I don't want no trouble. I don't want your problems to become mine. She's like, I'm not here to be anyone's problem. It's just like, I'm trying to leave. And I'm like, I guess she's trying to get up enough money so she's in good terms with Milo, so Milo lets her like either leave like this, like leave Joseph's employment and stuff, and she's able to go off and do whatever she wants to, or specifically so that she can kind of be back in good favor with him to do what she was before he signed her up to this Kingstown job, brought her in for Kings. I don't know, the whole like getting close to Mike last season thing. So she noticed that Kyle did see her, so she actively ran away so he wouldn't get a good look at her, but he did. So I'm almost curious, is there going to go something happen between like the lady who's kind of running all the girls, like the one who's kind of like the madam, like the fact is her and Iris, because Milo was like, oh yeah, she was like, Milo wants to see you, and it's like, oh, right now, it's like, yeah, he'll send someone for you, whether it's tonight, today, tomorrow, and I'm like, the timing just seems interesting, and once again, this could still all flow, and it still has to be about those bonds. We'll have to see. I'm just like, once again, this show scares me because I'm like, you never know when they're going to blindside you with some stuff. I'm just worried about Milo doing something to either Kyle or Iris or both, and putting Mike in that complicated position of, it's Sophie's choice, you gotta pick type of situation. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where all this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.